Hybrid cars have been part of the scene for a while now. When Toyota introduced the idea with their Prius, they basically said the future of responsible motoring is efficiency in a package that isn't very exciting to drive. Then Honda came along with their CRZ and said the future of responsible motoring is efficiency in a package that looks exciting but is let down by a slightly unimpressive motor. Now BMW have come along and said, bugger that, the future of responsible motoring is efficiency in something that is fun to drive. And so that's why they've decided their hybrid won't be a few batteries linked to a 1200 four-cylinder motor. They've made sure that the first hybrid in its class will be a hard act to follow by basing it on their potent 335i. Surprisingly, they're not shouting about its performance potential from the building tops. The styling details say anything but. There aren't too many differences between this and the regular 3. In fact, you'd have to be a bit of a car spotter to notice them. Satin chrome surrounds for the windows, optional 18-inch aerodynamically efficient wheels, and some subtle badging that you'd probably miss if it didn't take up most of the rear bodywork. On one hand, it's a very subtle execution of the hybrid idea because it looks like a regular 3 Series rather than being a complete new model. On the other hand, I think the BMW badge department got just a little too much leeway on this car. I think people would still get the idea with 80% less lettering. I'm not a huge fan of the new 3 Series styling. To me, it's a bit pinched at the front and it looks like it's pulling a face like it's in a bit of pain. I suppose the idea is that it looks dynamic, and I can see that once I look past the torturous front end. Besides the obvious cues, there's not a lot of hybrid in the look of this car, but the whole theme becomes a little bit more obvious when you're on the road. The hybrid system in here makes things more efficient in one of 2 ways. Either the electric motor will combine with a petrol engine to provide instant power when you need it, or the show is run completely on batteries alone, which means you move silently through traffic or through parking lots. Also, in ecological professional mode, the batteries alone will keep this car cruising at up to 160 kilometers an hour. I mean, apparently, I don't know, I didn't really find out for myself or anything. Very clever engineering has resulted in a seamless system that either swaps between the 2 power units or combines them when necessary. The result, according to BMW, is a reduction of 1.3 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers when compared with the regular 335i. The only problem with the whole efficiency thing, as far as I can see it, is the engine they've thrown into the mix. And not because it's a petrol engine, but because it's this engine. BMW's straight-six twin-turbo 3-litre with 225 kilowatts and 400 newton meters. The electric motor puts out 40 kilowatts, and total power to the rear wheels through the 8-speed automatic gearbox is 250 kilowatts, which means this car's 0 to 100 time is 0.2 seconds quicker than the 335i. In theory, the efficiency trick in the ActiveHybrid 3 is solid. Add an electric motor and clever power management to the setup, and even though it adds 200 kilograms, you still get a car that burns less fuel while delivering fractionally better performance. In practice, the power package in this car has you caring far less about consumption figures than you do about enjoying the drive on offer. The last 3 Series I drove was the 328i, and despite all the figures and the press hype, I found it just a little bit dull. This isn't just another model with a different drivetrain. It feels like a completely different species. It's more alive, it's more responsive, and the hybrid badge has done nothing to take away from the enjoyment of the drive. I completely get that that was BMW's point. Hybrids don't have to be boring do-gooders, they can actually offer a great drive, and in that respect, they've succeeded. My point is that all those improvements in efficiency are good for marketing purposes, but realistically, the last thing you feel like doing in this car is driving with a light foot. It feels and it sounds so good that you just can't help squeeze the accelerator every chance you get. No doubt BMW will counter that argument by saying this is the better choice because it delivers efficiency without compromising on anything. In here you get top-notch everything, including full connectivity to your iPod, your cell phone, and the internet. It's got space, it's got comfort, it's got toys, and just the right amount of luxury. A bit like the styling, I'm not a huge fan of the BMW 3 Series interior, but that's not to say it's bad. It mixes the same functionality and ease of use you'd find in any of its competition, and if I had to pick a highlight, I'd say it's the switchgear. Molded to look like they're floating, they feel as good as they look. One thing I'm glad BMW haven't done is be all gimmicky about this hybrid. Geeky, yes, insofar as you can monitor your power usage over the last 15 minutes, but ultimately it's just another BMW. It drives well, and it tries to be eco-friendly. There's no doubt the ActiveHybrid 3 is the most enjoyable hybrid we've driven, simply because it takes nothing away from the regular 335i, it just adds more efficiency. But the figures don't quite add up. At 625,000 Rand, the ActiveHybrid 3 is 82,000 Rand more expensive than a regular 335i. You're saying you'll save every time you have to fill up. And you will, sort of. According to BMW's figures, a full tank of petrol in this car will get you 1,016 kilometers, and that works out to 76 cents per kilometer. In a 335i, you get 877 kilometers, which works out to 93 cents per kilometer. And that's a difference of just 17 cents per kilometer. And that means you'd have to drive that car over 450,000 kilometers before you see any real savings at the fuel pump. No doubt the ActiveHybrid 3 makes a statement about your ecological sensitivities, but it is a very expensive statement. BMW's smooth and powerful twin-turbo 6 has been bolted to an electric motor, so output is boosted to 250 kilowatts. The switch between electric and petrol power is barely discernible. There's not much to dislike in this most eco-friendly of 3 series, but anyone looking to the ActiveHybrid 3 to save money at the fuel pump should check the figures.